Okay, welcome to EL Fundamentals. I am Dr. Sedano. I am the Education Programs Professional with School Support. So you will, anything with EL, you will be getting from me. So I do all the Title III school support for our EL students. You will also see me I not only do EL, but I also do school safeties. I know my 6 schools from CCSD. You're probably used to seeing me because I also hold the quarterly meetings. So I wear many hats, but this is definitely the area you will see hear from me is for EL items that schools are responsible for turning in. So all the schools, welcome. We're glad to have everybody here. And let's go ahead and get going. If you have an AI note taker, please stop that. That is privacy risks are involved with that. And it is a violation of out-of-state security requirements. Let me check really quick and see if we have any AIs. I did not see any. Perfect. Oh, wait. I do see one here. Okay, I think that's the only one. Okay, let's continue. And we're going to have different sections. After we're done with that section, I will pause and see if there's any questions, and then we'll continue so we can keep the momentum going. Okay, let me go ahead and get started. First, let's have a brief overview of what we will discuss in this training. The intended purpose of this training is to identify and discuss some of the items that are required for schools regarding English learners. First, we will have a brief introduction to define Title III, which is the federal regulation that describes requirements for English learners. Regardless of whether or not a school receives Title III funding, they are responsible for meeting these requirements. Then we will discuss required documents that are related to English learners. Then we will spend some time discussing other relevant topics such as testing, record keeping, and additional resources. Okay, let me continue. In the introduction section, we will take a moment to learn more about Title III and its purpose. Title III of the Every Student Succeed Act, ESSA, provides for language instruction for English learners. Schools have obligation under Title III of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, as amended by Every Student Succeed Act of 2015, which is known as the ESSA. Regardless of whether or not schools receive Title III funding, they are responsible for language instruction for English learners and for meeting guidelines for students. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act is now often referred to as ESSA. ESSA is a reauthorization of ESEA, and it replaces prior iterations of ESEA, such as No Child Left Behind. Title III was developed as a component of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act and is now part of ESSA. I'm going to watch a short video, see if let me know. Let me see what I can see. Noe or Brenda, give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. If not, wait, I haven't push play. Hold on just a second. Let's see. Okay, some of you said you did not hear the video, right? So I'll go ahead and share. We're going to share this slide with you so you can go back and see it, but the video's done. Sorry about that. Let's see. Title 3, Part A. Okay, is often referred to as the English Language Acquisition, Language Enhancement, Academic Achievement Act, which is part of ESSA. The purpose of Title III is to ensure that English learners, including immigrant children and youth, develop English proficiency and meet the same academic content and academic achievement standards that other children are expected to meet. Schools must implement language instruction education programs. And what that is, we also call it the model of instruction. There's like codes that need to be put in Infinite Campus. So that's what they call the language instruction educational programs, designed to help English learners achieve these standards. State education agencies, SEAs, local education agencies, the LEAs, and schools are accountable for increasing the English proficiency in core academic content knowledge of English learners. The legislation that provides these guidelines is listed in the slides for your reference. Noah, can you hear me? I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Excellent. Thank you. Title III has what is known as a supplement, not supplant provision that is found in Section 3115G of ESSA. For schools who receive Title III funds, they may not be used to fulfill the legal obligation of state and local education agencies to English learners under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Equal Education Opportunity. This means that if there are services that would have been required, whether your school receives Title III funds or not, you may not pay for these items using Title III funds. The items in this training are required for all schools, regardless of Title III funding. The supplement, not supplant presentation from NDE will be provided in the Canvas repository, which provides examples of some items that are allowable and not allowable, uses the Title III funds for schools who receive these funds. It also discusses the Title III required activities, professional learning, parent, family, community engagement, and providing support that enhance or supplement the language instruction educational programs. And remember, you cannot, if you get funding, you cannot buy testing supplies with that. They will deny you if you do that. A variety of resources can be found on the Nevada Department of Education, NDE, English Language Learners website, including sample letters, EL standards and framework information, NDE guidance documents related to English learners, instructional resources, and resources for families. Additionally, a specific Title III guidance document is available using the link on the slide that you can use to learn more about Title III. Please note, links on the NDE website sometimes link to items that reference prior school years. In these cases, that is the year the document was most recently revised, and it is generally the most current document that is available. Any questions before we move on to the documents? Okay, we'll continue. Let's look at some of the documents that schools will use for their English learner programs. Schools need a variety of documents associated with Title III. These documents include the EL Bill of Rights documents and website postings, home language survey, EL policy and plan, parent notification letters. Assembly Bill AB 195 was passed during the 2021 legislative session and requires information sharing by charter schools. The bill is also referred to as the English Learners Bill of Rights. You may use the link on the slide to read the full text of the bill. Additionally, the memo regarding AB 195 and its requirements will be included on the Canvas repository that houses this training. As a result of AB 195, schools must, just one second, let me get some water. Provide parents of English learners with a copy of the English learner's pupil and parents' rights and post it to your website. So remember, some of these documents are required to be posted on your website. This information should be provided in English and in parents' primary language upon enrollment or identification as an English learner. For students who did not receive this documentation at the time of enrollment or identification as an EL, provide this documentation as soon as possible. When posted to the website, it should be posted in as many languages as possible. At a minimum, all the languages provided by NDE. Copies of the materials provided by NDE will be posted in Canvas along with the recording of this training. Most information to the school website regarding the use of Title III funds, post to your school's website, and update annually as well. Information related to the way the school has used funds, receive pursuant to Title III of Every Student Succeed Act, 2015. This information must be organized into categories of programs and services that the funds were used for, including the engagement of parents and families. Add components to the school EL policy and plan. Per NRS 388.407, all schools are required to have an EL policy and plan. AB 195 adds 2 new required components to this plan. Also, that EL plan needs to be on your website as well. The 2 new components are 1, provisions for the identification of the primary language of each pupil enrolled in the school district at the beginning of each school year to assist in the identification of pupils who are English learners. You can please mute yourself, Dawn. I appreciate it. Number 2, provisions that ensure English learner students remain in a program for English learners until the pupil obtains language proficiency based on appropriate assessment for pupils who are English learners, unless the parent or legal guardian of the pupil decline for the student to remain placed in a program. And again, the program is not a location. It is just whatever you're going to say you're going to provide. So it can be if you're doing PSYOP strategies in the classroom, doing small group, whatever it is, it's that models of instruction. Okay. There may also be additional components that require revision of your plan, which will be discussed later in this presentation. Collect and submit additional data. It is our goal that our SPCSA to compile as much of the additional data as possible, particularly when the information is something that should be available in Infinite Campus. However, there may be times when we request the information from schools if it is something that is readily available, that is not available in Infinite Campus. We'll discuss record keeping later in the presentation. However, be sure that information for all students is recorded accurately in Infinite Campus so that SPCSA staff may pull the data when requested by NDE. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, we'll do that at the end, no problem. Okay, home language survey. All students must take a home language survey upon initial enrollment to the school. The home language survey is used to meet the requirements of the Nevada Administrative Code 388.620, which refers to the determination of primary language of pupil. A link to the text of the NAC is provided within the slide. It must include the following questions. What is the first language learned by the student? What language is most frequently spoken in the home? What language is most frequently spoken by the student? This survey may be included in online registration as opposed to a paper form. A template of the paper form will be provided in Canvas repository along with the recording of this training. EL policy and plan. As part of the pre-opening process, all schools develop an EL policy and plan prior to opening. This plan should be updated each year in order to be compliant with current guidance and regulations. Also, be sure to post the EL policy and plan on your school website for parents and students to access. SPCSA has developed a template EL policy and plan that should be used when designing and updating your school's EL policy and plan. This document will be provided within the Canvas repository associated with this training. Okay, let me go ahead and admit. Yes, we will be sharing all of this information will be provided on the Canvas repository, and I'll share that at the end as well. Okay, parent letters. If a student is identified as an English learner no later than 30 days after the beginning of the school year, the school must inform parents of English learner identified for participation or participating in such a program. Initial notification is to inform parents of their child's identification as an English learner or initially fluent English proficient student upon entering a Nevada school for the first time, and provide all the required information to meet federal Title I or Title III requirements. Brad, if you can please mute, I appreciate it. Annual notification is to inform parents of their child's continued identification as English learners in Nevada school and provide all the required information to meet Title I and Title III requirements. If upon notification, a parent chooses not to have their child participate in an EL program, after the student has been identified as eligible, parents should fill out a refusal form stating that they are declining services. However, if the parent chooses to take advantage of these services later, they may fill out a form to request a reinstatement of services. So keep that in mind. If a parent says, I don't want them going to small groups or whatever services you provide at your school, they can deny those services, and you have to have them sign a letter stating that they are denying those services. Don't just take them out of those services, but they still have to test annually. It does not waive them from not testing. Let me go ahead and let a couple people in. Noah, do you have a question?
Yeah, usually when I was at CCSD, we did a FERPA challenge. What requirements or documents would you need if a parent wanted to just refuse ELL services?
What documents? Yep, and that you will find in the Canvas
Okay.
repository. There is a letter. All those little forms are in there, so you can use that, have them fill out that refusal form for your own documentation. And again, let's say the parent halfway through the program, 2-3 months later decides, no, I really want them to be reinstated in that program. Then you have them fill out another form and reinstate them into that. But they are still obligated to be tested annually. So don't think it exempts them from testing. Sometimes they have that misleading that, oh, if they don't have services, they don't have to be tested. And even if they're absent the day you test them, there is a makeup day. So then you can always make that up. So sometimes parents want to keep them home thinking they're not going to be tested. They will be tested. Sooner or later, we will find them, right? So just keep that in mind. Now, if they're in the hospital, then it's out of your control. But okay, we'll continue and then see if there's any more questions. The exit letter may be used when a student has achieved a sufficient score to exit EL status. Template letters will be posted along with the recording of this training in the Canvas repository and are coming soon. Okay, any other questions before we move on to testing? No questions? Okay, let's move on to testing. Please pay close attention to testing, especially our new schools that are going to be opening in the fall. I'm pretty sure the CCSD schools, they already know this because they test every year, but those schools that are brand new, you are required to test these students yearly. Unfortunately, we had a brand new school last year that forgot or didn't plan on testing them. Maybe it slipped their mind. I don't know. But you have to test your students, your EL students, annually. So please make sure you program that you will be doing SBAC, WIDA testing, all of that. So remember, it is required that every EL student is tested. So just want to make sure I emphasize that for everyone. Next, we will look at the testing requirements for identifying EL students and for measuring student progress. EL assessments in Nevada are components of WIDA, which is an acronym for World Class Instructional Design and Assessment. The WIDA Consortium is a group of states dedicated to the design and implementation of high standards and equitable educational opportunities for English learners. Correct. It does go in the Nevada report card. One of the components of WIDA testing is a screener. Any student who has been identified as a potential EL by the home language survey must take a screener to determine whether the student is considered an English learner. In prior years, Nevada used the kindergarten WAP for kindergarten and WIDA screener for grades 1 through 12 to identify EL learners. According to the Nevada English Language Learner Identification and Placement Guidance on the WIDA Nevada website, the WAP was phased out December 31st, 2021 in favor of the K through 12 WIDA screener, and that is now used for all grade levels. The screener must be given to identify students upon enrollment, and the results must be provided to parents within 30 days of the beginning of the school year, or 2 weeks if administered during the school year. Once the results become available, they must be communicated to parents or guardians regarding placement decisions. Once the students have been identified as an English learner using the screener, charter schools must offer EL services and programs until ELs are proficient in English and can participate meaningfully in educational programs without EL support. That would be when they get exited. You have to provide supports, just so you make that clear. If they're there for 1 day, they have to be coded with the model of instruction that you are providing. Even if they're there for 1 day or they're there for 3 years, however long it takes, right? You want to make sure you're providing supports. Charter schools must also provide appropriate special education services to EL with disabilities. They are found eligible for special education and related services. So yes, both, if they're special ed and EL, you have to make sure you're providing both services. Additional information can be found in the WIDA Nevada website by reviewing the Nevada English Learner Identification and Placement documentation. Please note that the current document that is posted may be from the prior school year, and there will be updates for next year as Nevada has revised EL exit criteria based on corrective actions from the United States Department of Education monitoring results, and there may be other updated items as well. Any questions with the screener? Okay. WIDA access. This is the one we give once a year. The assessment used to measure progress for ELs in the WIDA Access for ELs Online. Access for ELs Online is given to all ELs during the annual testing window, which is typically from January through March, also referred to as the ELPA, which is English Language Proficiency Assessment. The percentage of students meeting their adequate growth percentile, AGP, on WIDA is reported on the Nevada School Performance Framework and is a component of your STAR rating. Once students have taken the test, you must provide parents with the scores report as it is a state assessment. There are score reports available from the WIDA website that you can send with the results that provide an explanation. Additional information can be found on the WIDA Nevada website, including an Access for ELs checklist. This checklist details each step in the access testing process from beginning to end. Please note that the current checklist that is posted may be from the prior school year. Please make sure to check this website for frequent updates for information. For more information about WIDA, please refer to the WIDA website, as well as the page of the WIDA site that's specified to Nevada using the links provided on the slide. On the Nevada specified page, you will also find the information regarding testing windows once they become available. Any questions regarding that before we continue? All about testing? Excellent. Okay, next we will discuss some of the record keeping items that are relevant to English learners. NDE hosted 2 data workshops and created recordings. These recordings demonstrate how the required data for EL's students should be entered at Infinite Campus. The data shown in this training is required to be entered for all EL students or students who need to take the screener. All data should be entered in the manner described in the recordings. The link and the password for each session is provided on the slide. It is essential that your data be entered in Infinite Campus in this manner so that NDE and SPCSA may access this data when required. If you have your registrar, whoever the person who's doing the Infinite Campus component, I highly recommend that they watch these recordings to make sure that they are inputting the data correctly. If you receive students who attended another school in Nevada, you should transfer their student records using Infinite Campus transfer feature. A new student record should not be created. Pay close attention to that because that's one of the things that we get that sometimes people tend to not pay attention, that they're transferring from another school here in town. And instead of transferring the record, they create a new record. So you don't want to have that. You want to keep the same record. So you have all the testing, you have all the scores, and just to keep that current. Students who have already been identified as EL should not be screened. You heard that. Already identified, no screening necessary. As EL should not be screened again, as their records are at Infinite Campus. Additionally, if a student has already been screened but passed the screener and was not identified for EL, this should be in the records and the student should not be screened again. So special emphasis on that because sometimes we get caught up on that. So if they're already screened, no need to rescreen them. Students' records must always be reviewed for prior EL status. Additional information regarding how to transfer records within the state of Nevada may be obtained from Infinite Campus. Students who were not previously attending schools in Nevada may also have been identified as EL in another state. So this is another one that I get questions here and there. If they're coming from Utah, from California, that's where we get a lot of schools from out there. and they're already EL, then you don't screen them. They're telling you they're already EL. You want to make sure you get their records and you put that in Infinite Campus. While you will need to create new student record in Infinite Campus, if the student's already identified as EL, their EL status may continue. Students who have not been identified as an EL should take the home language survey and be screened appropriately if identified based on the home language survey. Any questions regarding that? Excellent. Data collection. Previously in this presentation, we discussed the EL Bill of Rights, which requires certain data collection. Additionally, there's data collection that is part of the desktop monitoring required by NDE, as well as immigrant student count. These are some examples of the data that will be collected. For example, the EL Bill of Rights, the AB 195, requires the following. The Board of Trustees of each school district should determine the number of pupils enrolled in the schools within the school district who are immigrants, refugees, newcomers to English language, and short-term and long-term ELs, English learners in total. So you're responsible for all of that data. Disaggregated by English learners who are 1, pupils with individualized education plan, so if they have an IEP, or a plan developed with the 504, you want to keep track of that as well. Special programs, including without limitations, special programs for gifted and talented, programs for career and technical education. So if you have CTE, you want to also keep track of how many of those students are ELs. Magnet program, advanced placement courses. If you have an international baccalaureate, dual credit, extracurricular. So listen carefully with this. If you have ELs doing extracurricular or athletic activities, they also want to know how many. Receive a high school diploma, disaggregated by type of diploma. Attend an institution of higher education after receiving a high school diploma, if known, because sometimes we don't know where they go. Receive a scholarship to attend an institution of higher education. The data collected pursuant to subsection 1 must be disaggregated by grade and pupil who are English learners. The Board of Trustees of each school district shall determine the number of teachers employed by the school district who have endorsements to teach pupils in programs of bilingual education or have an endorsement to teach English as a second language. So eventually that will be one of the questions that you will be asked. How many of your staff members are EL endorsed, if they have them. So they'll collect all of that data. Who are trained in a program for language instruction adopted by the Board of Trustees of the school district to the extent practicable. The data collected pursuant to this subsection must be disaggregated by teachers who are licensed to teach elementary, middle, and high school. ND also asks for immigrant student count during the school year. An immigrant student, so just understand what immigrant student, they also have to be, every student, there's a place of birth, that should be, whether they're born in the US or born wherever, that also needs to make sure you fill that out so that we know where these students, it's part of the Infinite Campus, but sometimes people forget to fill in the place of birth. Even if it's in the US, you should still identify it's in the US. So this is what immigrant student is. An immigrant student, just so you understand this, because sometimes people get confused, has nothing to do with language. It's their place of birth. So do know that immigrant students, because sometimes people think that immigrant students is related to the language they speak. No, I'm going to specify here what it is. It's the place of birth, the origin. That's what they're talking about. Immigrant student is of age 3 through 21, was not born in any state of the United States. State means the 50 states, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, children born to U.S. citizens abroad, children born on military base overseas, may be considered immigrants if they meet all the criteria in the definition of immigrant. Number 3, has not been attending one or more schools in any one or more states for more than 3 full academic years. A full academic year is 10 months of school attendance, kindergarten through 12th. If a student has been in a different school in different school districts and even in different states, the number of months that the student has been in school in any one or more states must not add up to a total of more than 3 full academic years. So if they've been in the US in the 50 states, less than 3 full academic years, they're considered immigrant. Okay. Then in addition, NDE collects a variety of data for desktop monitoring. It includes some of the EL Bill of Rights data, as well as the immigrant student count. While SPCSA will submit the information from Infinite Campus wherever possible, the school must maintain accurate student records when it comes to EL in order for SPCSA to generate accurate reports from Infinite Campus. Additionally, there may be times when it's necessary for schools to report data to SPCSA when requested due to access rights. Any questions regarding data collection? I know that's intense there. Perfect. Now we're going to continue with the model of instruction. Again, model of instruction and language instruction education program, it's the same thing we're talking about. So if you, twice a year, we have a newsletter. So every Wednesday we sent that out. And twice a year, I can run a report, an ad hoc, and see who are the schools that have not indicated the model of instruction, also known as a language instruction. It gives me all the schools, like all the students who are not labeled. They're ELs, but they forget to put that on there. That's the only way that we're able to see that you are providing services, by labeling, putting the code in. And right here where it says the model of instruction PDF, those are all the codes that are possible. So just be sure that when a student is identified as an EL, they must have the MOI. That's the biggest emphasis. And I'm going to read this off to you in just a second here. But NDE desktop monitor requires all schools to enter the model of instruction, also known as language instruction education programs. One model of instruction must be entered in Infinite Campus for each student. Schools must enter data according to the requirements provided in data workshops from NDE. Data entry is not optional, as this data is required by NDE and USEN and must be entered the way it is shown in the recording. You may watch the recording of the data workshop. Okay. Students who attended the school anytime during the school year need to have an MOI. Even if they were there for 2 days, they still have to have, if they're an EL student, they still have to have MOI. Even if they withdraw. This documents the service the student received while attending the school. Any questions regarding the MOI? Okay. This slide contains additional resources that you may use to assist with your English learner needs. Remember that this slide will also be available for your reference, so you may access any links discussed within this training. If you have additional concerns or questions, here's the contact information. And let me go ahead and give you that sign-in sheet that you were asking about.
Lydia, can I see the contact information again?
Sure, here it goes.
Thank you.
Mhm. And then I'm going to go ahead and also show you this because I also have a sign-in sheet that I like to keep track of all the trainings that I provide. So if you can also do this sign-in sheet, I would appreciate it. And again, this is the one that I use. So you should have two sign-in sheets.